But I want to take the time to shoot a quick message out about working together with other organizations. I get on a regular basis, literally I'm not exaggerating, at least once or twice a day, I get private messages from people saying, hey, will you partner with my organization? I want to work together with you. And one of the neat things about this whole, whether you want to, I like to call it a community, because when you say movement, it just creates kind of a negative connotation to it. But whatever you want to call it, the community, the movement, whatever, there's over 600 different pages, Facebook pages for different organizations, and growing on a daily basis right now. It seems like every day now people are creating more pages. So I would imagine that at this rate, within the next few months, we're going to have over 1,000 different pages, if you will, from different organizations. And collectively, we estimate there's around 800,000 people following at least one of these different pages. Some following multiple. I know myself, I'm a part of at least 60 or 70 of the pages. But about 800,000 people. Now that is huge. It's good and it's bad. It's good in the fact that there are a lot of people concerned about this issue. There is a lot of organizations across the country working on other different types of legislation that would love to have 800,000 people following their issues on Facebook. So that is a huge community that, if harnessed properly, can be just absolutely huge. But done improperly, you end up with a bunch of infighting. So I just want to shoot this message, once again, not as an expert or anything like that, but just to try and throw out some ideas of how we can all work together collectively. The key is a couple things. One is try and find an organization that's very similar to you in tone. Just because somebody has a different message or a different tone doesn't mean that they're bad. Every once in a while I get people that they want to work together with a group, but they want to change the group that they want to work with. If you don't like the way a group is working, you're much better off. There's 600 other organizations out there to work with. So you're much better off finding an organization that you already have a very close alignment with, rather than taking one organization and making them change. It's almost like, imagine if you were a guest in someone's house and they have brown walls and you said, well, I don't like brown walls, I want a blue wall. Well, then get your own home and get a blue wall. Don't be a guest in someone else's house and then demand that they change the color of their walls. So you can normally see by the page and the flow of the messages that they're seeing whether there's a fit with you or not. And if there's a not, like I said, it doesn't mean that they're a bad organization. Doesn't mean anything's bad with you. It just means find a different organization out of the 600. You know, McDonald's is good, Burger King's good, Taco Bell's good, but they each have their own systems. So you don't need to bash all of them. There's plenty of market out there for all of them. Same way with our organization. So find one that you mesh with. And then, respect their territory too. And this is a prime example. Most of you know that I'm with an organization called Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. I'm doing this Facebook Live for the Father's Rights Movement page. We have a great relationship, a great partnership. Father's Rights Movement has the single largest reach of any organization that's out there. Matter of fact, it's several times bigger than the next 2, 3, and 4 organizations combined. My organization is very narrowly focused on trying to get statewide legislation passed, trying to repeal Title 4D, and trying to raise awareness within that microcosm, if you will. And then also educating and enabling people across the country so they can be able to do things in their own states without necessarily needing someone to hold their hand, that we can sort of educate them. So I work very closely with the Father's Rights Movement. But I have to be very respectful. When I'm on the Father's Rights Movement page, I have to respect the tone of my message. I have certain parameters. Obviously, I need to raise a lot of funds for my organization. I try not to raise funds when I'm on the Father's Rights Movement page. They're trying to raise their own funds. Now, the only time I do is because they're a 501c3 and my organization's a 501c4, so we have different goals and things that we are allowed to do with the money. C3 is not allowed to do lobbying more than 5 or 10%. So I can do a lot more than that with a 501c4. But for the most part, I try to never step on any things. I don't go on the Father's Rights Movement page and say, hey, I need everybody to go to the Americans for Equal Shared Parenting page. No, when I'm on there, 2/3 of my time minimum needs to be edifying the page and creating value to whatever page I'm on. If I'm on the Father's Rights Movement page, the sole reason should be, am I adding value to the Father's Rights Movement page? Not am I gaining more followers for my page. Hopefully, if I do my job right and add enough value to that page, people are going to seek me out and want to follow both of us. And the neat thing is, we each focus on different niches. The Father's Rights Movement page does so much more than I could ever hope to do. Like I said, mine is pretty narrowly focused on the legislative, political type of a realm. Father's Rights Movement page provides so many more services. So I encourage everybody needs to be a part of the Father's Rights Movement page. If you are interested in the legislative, then yeah, it'd be neat to be a part of both pages. But I don't want to go on there and do a whole thing about trying to convert people over to my page. So respect that. If you're on someone else's Facebook page, if you're posting, if you're commenting in a thread that's going on, don't bombard the thread with, hey, follow our page, follow our page, follow our page. If you make a comment and it adds value and people see what page you're from, they will seek you out. And when you're partnering with people, and a couple of good examples. In Iowa right now, there's a couple of organizations out there working very heavily on different issues regarding foster care and CPS type issues. That is not my forte. So I don't get mad at them. I don't say, well, no, everybody needs to follow my page instead of the Iowa page. No, if you're following CPS issues, I tell people, go with Families United. I apologize, Nicholas. I can't. It's FUAN is the abbreviation. Families United Action Network, I believe it is. But I'm regularly feeding people to the Iowa crew. I know Tanya Myers. I've fed some people to her. Today I fed somebody to Lily Black over in Indiana because they had some concerns about some extended family issues. That's not my forte. So realize we're not in a competition here. We need to figure out, just like with a baseball team, a football team, any team you put together, a corporation, you're going to have accountants, you're going to have marketing people, you're going to have engineers. Within our movement or community, if you will, different people are going to have different resources. So if somebody's worried about extended families, I'm going to feed them to probably Lily Black, or down in Texas, Jeff Morgan. If they're talking more about alimony, I'm going to feed them to Terry Power down in Florida. So find out who has different niches. Now when you are partnering, always remember that 2-to-1 ratio. A good example is Illinois. I work very closely with Illinois now. These guys are doing a great job with Dads Can Too, Illinois Fathers for Equality, and some of those guys over there. When I'm in Illinois, 2/3 of my effort should be adding value to Illinois. I do want to, obviously, since mine is a nationwide effort, I think it does give more impact if there's a nationwide aspect to it. So yes, obviously I do try and get some people to follow me. I try to get some funds for me, but I always tell people, I want you to consider, if you've got $3 to contribute, put $2 within your local state and put $1 over to me. So make sure that you follow those things. And the same thing, when I'm going to Illinois, I'm in communication with Chad and Jesse and Corey and Steve to make sure I don't step on any toes. And if I do, it's definitely not a intent. It was just a mistake. So, but you want to make sure that you're doing that when you're working with other organizations. And the biggest key of all is there's no need for any type of bashing of anyone. If you have a disagreement, take it offline. Either make a phone call. You know, that's the grown-up thing to do. If you've got a challenge with somebody, pick up the phone and make a phone call. Don't ever, ever, ever waste your time or someone else's time doing a Facebook Live or doing, making Facebook posts bashing someone in our movement. You may disagree with them, but it does no one any good for you to bash them. First off, it makes you, anytime I ever see someone bashing someone else, immediately that tells me more about the person doing the bashing than the person that they're bashing about. But, and a prime example, I think most of you know, I'm very against protesting at courthouses. But I have respect for people who do that. I know their heart is in the right place. Just because I disagree with the way that they go about making change doesn't mean that I think they're a bad person. And I mean that very sincerely. There's people within the movement that I just strongly disagree with the way they're going about it. But I've got a lot of respect for them as people. And I think of one, I probably won't mention her name. She probably knows who I'm talking about. But there's one lady in the movement in Iowa that her and I disagree a lot on philosophy, but I have a lot of respect for her, very genuine respect. Matter of fact, I've referred a lot of people to her on CPS type issues because I think she does know what she's doing there. Just because we disagree with philosophy, and I think she feels the same way about me. I'm convinced that we've got a mutual respect just because we disagree on strategy. Another thing is with the language. With my movement, when you're dealing with legislators, you don't see too many legislators dropping F-bombs. So if you're trying to work with legislators, when in Rome, do as the Romans. So it's not very conducive to getting legislation passed if they look on your page and start seeing a bunch of F-bombs. Because they do follow the pages. I think most of you know on my page, I have probably, I'm not exaggerating, 70 to 80 different legislators, whether it's U.S. members of Congress or members of different state Senate or House of Representatives in different states, but at least 70 to 80 different members of different legislatures following my page. Matter of fact, when I was in Washington, D.C. and met with Senator Blunt, his staff was telling me things that I had done the day before, that the only way they would have known that was following the Facebook page of Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. So they are watching the page, so I have to watch it. If I start dropping a bunch of F-bombs, there's a lot of legislators that say we can't align ourselves with someone like that. So I have to be very careful. So not that I'm better than anyone else, and I hope it doesn't come across like that. I know there's a segment of the population that's the way they normally talk, and it would be just too odd for them to not use F-bombs. So I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying with what I'm trying to get accomplished for this strategic purpose, I can't have that on this particular page. And now there's a couple of exceptions. I think some of you know Cash Jackson and Philly Slim, God love them. They are such great people, and we're such great friends. And we've just got a great mutual respect. I know they feel that way about me, and they know I feel that way about them. And Philly, he's not going to stop dropping F-bombs. Cash isn't going to let him stop slipping out every once in a while. But when you watch them, you can tell where their heart is. They're just really good people. So I do obviously make exceptions. But for the most part, I do kind of have to watch who's posting things on my page. And so you need to watch that when you're going with different organizations. As I said, try and find organizations that are going to gel. But getting back to the point I was starting to make is, please don't ever put someone down. If you disagree with their philosophy, either send them a private message or make a phone call. Don't ever put a post up. Guys, we've got enough enemies from the Bar Association and some of the feminist groups that are out there. We don't need to be fighting amongst ourselves. The odds are stacked against us. If you're following one of these pages, chances are you are a non-custodial parent that is not getting time with your kids. You've got enough things coming at you. You don't need somebody else coming at you. So we don't want to throw gasoline on the fire. Let's try and make sure that we work together as an organization and try and find out what are our strengths. If you disagree with somebody, just stop following that page. Follow a different page that suits you. There's some pages that I don't really like to watch that much. And once again, I'm not judging them. I sincerely in my heart wish them well, but they have a different strategy. If they ever call for my help and ask for ideas, I would definitely literally love to meet with them and give them ideas. But I don't expect them to change their page because I have a different philosophy. They're entitled to run their page the way they want, and they have a right to it, and I sincerely am happy for them doing it that way. But I try to find people that I align with, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Find which organizations you align with. Find ones that have the similar goals. There's organizations out there, I mentioned, some that work on alimony reform, some that work on child custody, some that work on support modifications, some that work on extended family. There's all kinds of different issues out there. Find ones that work with your issue. The biggest key, though, is, guys, we have 800,000 people across the country following all our pages. I'm not exaggerating. That is an army. We've got the people in place to make the changes. We just need to make sure that we start working together even better. We've unified a lot in these last 12 to 24 months. I've seen so many organizations that are realizing this and all working together. It's just a neat thing to see. We need to tidy it up even more. Don't ever make any negative posts about someone else. Encourage and edify other organizations. Find out, how can you feed people? If you come across someone who has a CPS issue, can you feed them to an organization that has different resources that you don't have? And if we lock arms properly, guys, I'll tell you what, 2018 is going to be a good year. We've got a lot of states in play right now. And I'm going to make a plug for my database. And as I said, my goal is to develop the single largest database for legislation with family law issues across the country. The reason is, it's so much easier to have one large database than one over here, one over here, one over here, one over here, one over here. You just can't get as many things done. So if we unify, and this database is open, I'm willing to partner with any organization across the country. I don't want people to think that this is the Mark Ludwig database by any means. It's a community database to figure out how can we serve the community. Now we're going to have to give some parameters. I can't be sending out a message every single week for one state and this state and this state and this state. We're going to try and keep it to about one a month or two a month or something like that we'll send messages out. And we can demographically profile that we're only sending messages out to certain areas. But if you can, do me a favor. If you haven't done it yet, AFESP.com, on there it'll say either join or subscribe. We need your name, your email, your city, your state. This is the way the big organizations get laws passed. The number one thing that you can do to influence legislation is have a huge number of people making emails, phone calls, and writing letters to their legislators. but you never want to promote that on Facebook or in a public forum. You always want to do it in stealth mode. You want to send out an email where you can tell people what to write, how to write it, who to write to, and when to write. And there's a very strategic approach. It's much more effective for a legislator to get 20 letters all within 48 hours than to get 1 letter a day for 20 days in a row. So we're going to have some strategic approaches we're going to use across the country in 2018. But to do that, we've got to develop the database now. The numbers are coming in. Things are looking great at this point, but we need to improve them even more. So if you haven't done it yet, guys, I'm not exaggerating. This is one thing that you can do if you haven't done it yet. If you're taking the time out of your day to try to help some of these pages out, you need to ask yourself, have you joined the database? Are you willing to write 1 email or make 1 phone call to a legislator? If not, you've really got to check your commitment level. But we need you guys, so please do me a favor. Go to afesp.com, enter your name, your email, your city, your state. Start working together, unifying, and I'll tell you what, guys, 2018 is going to be a dynamite year for all of us. Thanks a lot.